Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping straight into the deep end of some truly profound metaphysical concepts. We're going to be unpacking Chapter 2 of the foundational text, The Laws of the Sun, specifically focusing on a section called What Buddhist Truths Tell Us. We're talking detailed and honestly somewhat startling claims about the true nature of the human soul, the structure of our minds, and the very evolution of consciousness. So let's get right into it.
I want to kick things off by challenging a basic assumption that, well, a lot of us hold about reality. Are we really just flesh and bone? Just collections of cells that eventually disappear over time? Or are we something entirely different? The text we're looking at today asserts a very bold no to that physical-only viewpoint. It argues that human beings are at their core eternal, unchanging entities just passing through time.
To ground our exploration, our map for today is The Laws of the Sun by Ryuho Okawa. Now, our goal here is simply to impartially unpack the incredibly dense architectural blueprints of the universe and the soul exactly as this text presents them. We aren't here to endorse these viewpoints, but rather to just clearly explain these fascinating concepts. Here's the game plan for the day. We're going to cover the soul's true nature, the structure of the soul, guardian and guiding spirits, the evolution of the mind, and finally, cosmic incarnations. All right, part 1, the soul's true nature, defining eternal existence. So what actually is a soul, according to this source? Well, the truth of the soul outlined here is that it's an eternal, unchanging reality, but don't mistake that for being static. It's actually described as a highly creative consciousness. It's not just some fleeting shadow attached to your physical body. Actually, it's the other way around. The physical body is just a temporary vessel for this eternal entity. And what's absolutely crucial to understand here is that this consciousness has complete freedom to dictate its own state of being. The text really drives his point home, stating, and I quote, "The soul is endowed with the nature to freely recreate itself according to its own will." The source emphasizes that this freedom is absolute, like literally no restrictions. Because of that, the soul can choose to elevate itself toward the light, or, and this is wild, it can choose to fall. The book explicitly claims that creating your own personal hell or committing evil is actually just a byproduct of having this absolute, unrestricted creative freedom. Moving on to part 2, structure of the soul and the multidimensional self. This is where the math of the soul gets really interesting. The text claims human souls don't operate as these isolated lone wolf units. Instead, they exist in a highly organized 6-person group. Think of it like a team. There's one core consciousness acting as the main body, and 5 copies or branching human spirits. Together, they form this cohesive multidimensional soul group that actually takes turns reincarnating so they can gather a wide variety of earthly experiences. Now, to explain how these copies were actually made, the source introduces a detail that feels almost like science fiction. It states that over 100 million years ago, up in the higher dimensions, a massive device was used to create these branching spirits from the core soul. This device is called the Pytron. It's described as this giant, high-dimensional light-amplifying system. It's such a fascinating blend of spiritual philosophy and almost futuristic metaphysical mechanics. Okay, part 3, guardian and guiding spirits, your spiritual support system. The text draws a very sharp distinction between a guardian spirit and a guiding spirit. Remember that 6-person soul group we just talked about? Well, when you were born here on Earth, your guardian spirit isn't some random entity. It's actually just one of the other 5 members of your own soul group who stayed behind in the spirit world. It's an inside job. It's internal support. A guiding spirit, on the other hand, is completely different. That is an external, highly evolved force that only attaches to individuals under very specific conditions. So how do these external guiding spirits actually operate? The text is crystal clear. They do not just swoop in and solve all your problems. They are drawn to individuals with large life missions or specific religious callings. But here's the major takeaway from this section. They communicate almost entirely through subtle inspiration, and they absolutely require the living person to have a solid dream or vision first. The source insists that spirits literally cannot guide someone who has no clear direction or subjective will of their own. You have to build the vessel of your dream first before they can pour any inspiration into it. Let's dive into part 4, mind and soul's evolution and measuring spiritual light. Before we talk about evolution, we have to look at a stark contrast drawn by the source between the brain and the mind. To a lot of modern thinkers, those are the exact same thing, right? But here, the physical brain is literally just destructible tissue.
Think of it like a temporary physical file cabinet. When you die, it burns up and disappears. The mind, however, is defined as the indestructible center of the soul. Its core function is to process and store all your spiritual experiences. The text claims the mind is the active engine, and even without a physical brain, the mind retains all your intellect, your emotions, and your memories perfectly intact in the afterlife.
And here is how the text literally measures the evolution of that mind. By the actual volume of light a soul emits. It's fascinating. In the seventh dimension, which is known as the Bodhisattva realm, the soul emits a moderate light, almost like a golden ring. Progress up to the eighth dimension, the Tathagata realm, and that light expands into a radiant halo up to 2 meters wide. By the time a soul reaches the ninth dimension, it is a massive cosmic body of light energy. So, spiritual evolution in this framework is quite literally an increase in your spiritual wattage. So, how do you actually turn up that brightness? The source advocates for the middle way, which is heavily tied to what it calls the true explanation of the Eightfold Path. Step 1 is rejecting extreme physical pleasure and worldly attachments. But step 2 is equally important, rejecting extreme asceticism or self-punishment. The text makes it very clear that torturing your physical body does not create enlightenment. Step 3 is embracing this middle way to deeply explore the inner mind. And this is exactly where the concept of one thought, 3,000 realms comes into play. The idea that a single, intensely focused thought in this balanced state can ripple across all dimensions of reality and spark genuine enlightenment.
Which brings us to our final section, Part 5, Incarnations and Spiritual Truths, and the ninth dimension, Building Across Human History. The source literally names names here. It lists specific historical and mythological figures, claiming they are all actually branches or incarnations of the exact same ninth dimensional entity. In the Mu era, it was La Mu. In Atlantis, Thoth. In the ancient Inca era, it was Rient Aral Crowd. In ancient Greece, Hermes. And in ancient India, Gautama Siddhartha, the historical Buddha. The text presents all these wildly diverse figures as a single unified spiritual lineage, guiding the evolution of Earth. So, what is the so what of all this massive cosmic architecture? Why does this matter for us right now? We need to bring it back down to the personal level. The ultimate takeaway from Chapter 2 of The Laws of the Sun is that individuals must abandon their attachments to the temporary physical world. Instead, the text encourages you to fiercely explore your inner mind, that indestructible core we talked about, and actively work to increase the volume of your own spiritual light by walking the middle way.
Which leaves us with a really profound question to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. Whether you view this text as literal truth, a philosophical metaphor, or just fascinating mythology, the central premise is pretty empowering. If your mind truly is an eternal core, capable of infinite light and absolute creative freedom, how will you choose to cultivate it today? Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible conceptual journey, and I'll see you in the next explainer.